For years I believed that if you made something with enough care, honesty and skill, people would eventually flock to it. It would command a high price. Your reputation as a craftsman would be highly valued. That was the old way. A craftsman would build something beautiful, show it to people, build a reputation. And over time, customers would appear. Today, the internet has replaced the old workshop doorway with a maze of algorithms, advertising systems and platforms that decide who gets seen. For a small maker, that can be a hard reality to accept. Let's face it, algorithms don't care how good your dovetails are. I have spent years learning traditional woodworking, hand tools, old techniques, various joinery, making things slowly and steering clear of factory production work. Working the way I do gives my work meaning. It carries the mark of the person who made it. But making something and selling something are two completely different skills. Everywhere you look, there are promises that AI will solve everything. Better titles, better descriptions, better SEO, better photographs, more customers. The idea sounds simple and promising. Use AI, optimize your listings, and buyers will come. But after putting those ideas into practice, the reality is different. AI can help you present your work better. It can help write descriptions, organize ideas, improve wording, and save time. What AI cannot do is create customers out of thin air. It cannot force a marketplace to show your work. It cannot replace trust that you can only gain through years of dealing with the public. And it cannot make people suddenly want something they were never searching for. It is like not so long ago when website developers all promised the same thing: to make you number one on Google's search engine. That pitch was everywhere in the early 2000s, and it was almost always nonsense. There is only one number one spot for any given search term. It changes constantly, and it is largely controlled by factors most small businesses have no power over. The people making that promise knew it was hollow. They were selling hope to people who didn't yet understand how search worked. The AI marketing promises of today are no different. Same structure, different technology. Promise, big results, collect the fee, and move on when it doesn't deliver. The person left holding nothing is always the small operator who believed it. A perfectly written listing can still sit on Etsy, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, or a Facebook shop and go completely unnoticed. One of the biggest lessons a craftsman learns is that the people who appreciate your work are not necessarily the people who buy it. Many of the people interested in traditional woodworking are other woodworkers. They love seeing hand-cut dovetails. They enjoy learning techniques. They appreciate the process and slowing down. But many of them are not customers because they can either make it themselves, or they are the type who watches and learns but never buys. They are not looking for someone to build them a wooden item. They are looking for knowledge or entertainment. That audience is valuable, but it is a different audience from the person who wants to buy a finished piece. A person who buys handmade work is often someone who admires the craft but does not have the time, tools or skills to create it themselves. They are buying the story as much as the object. Many makers build their entire business on platforms they do not control. Facebook, Instagram, Etsy, eBay. These platforms are powerful, but they are not yours. You can spend years building followers and still be at the mercy of a decision made by a company, made an algorithm or a moderation system. That is a frightening position for a small creator. One day your work can be visible, the next day it can disappear. A following is not the same as ownership, and a follower on a platform is not the same as a paying customer. The obvious answer is always, build a website. But for many craftspeople that is not easy. Money is not unlimited. A website costs money, hosting, software, marketing, all of it costs money. When you're trying to sell handmade work, every dollar matters. The answer is not necessarily an expensive website. The important thing is having a platform that belongs to you, even a simple page, a basic portfolio, or a small email list. Because an email address from someone who genuinely cares about your work is worth more than thousands of random followers who scroll past. It is old school, but it still works better than most of what is being sold today. The world does not need another mass-produced wooden object. Factories can make things cheaper and faster. A great example of that is the Carrara markets, right here in my neck of the woods. Why is it failing? Because the sellers are selling imported mass-produced goods that you can buy in any shop on the Gold Coast. 40 years ago, sellers were selling trash and treasure, stuff they had from home and stuff they made themselves. Somewhere along the way, sellers started importing goods from China. It was profitable for a while until it wasn't. In other words, short-term gain for a long-term loss. The future of handmade work may not be about chasing every platform. It may be about finding the small number of people who truly value what you do. Sadly, not everyone will care. Most people are busy with their own lives, and that is normal. The goal is not to reach everyone. The goal is to find the few who care. A craftsman does not need millions of people watching unless you're a content creator. What they do need is the right people watching. The hardest part of being an independent maker today is not making the object. It is getting it seen. The internet promised to connect creators with the world, but it also created new barriers. Algorithms and platforms decide who will be seen, and Facebook advertising systems decide who will advertise with them and who will not. They will ban you in a heartbeat without giving you a reason, even if you have never advertised once. I know many people who have suffered the same fate just for speaking up against political figures. This is now a common worldwide problem. This is their way of silencing you. For some, it has proven effective, but for others, it has not. The damage caused in the process runs into the millions, and just like the imported Chinese goods, a short-term gain will eventually become a long-term loss. For the small craftsman, the challenge is learning how to survive in that environment without losing the reason they started making things in the first place. Because at the end of the day, the value of handmade work was never created by an algorithm. It was created by a person.